Thanks for the great intro. I work for Flexa. They are doing digital payments, trying to make it accessible for large retailers across the U.S. Our key thing is we're trying to make on-chain payments accessible to the large retailers. So like we brought on Chipotle, Nordstrom, GameStop, a ton of other merchants, and we're just trying to keep that adoption pushing. I kind of want to share with you kind of my journey into this position, because like naturally you guys are college students and you guys are looking, to get into industries. The crypto ecosystem is such a profound place to work. It's an equal opportunity. So like recently I went to Mexico and I went to a hackathon, and it was just amazing. I was working with a bunch of like young people, 17, 18, 19, 20, and we were working toward building these different solutions, right? But what I found profound is that everyone had the same opportunity, like as me, to meet industry leaders, to work with the same people, to just become part of the ecosystem, this infinite garden of opportunity. And I really want to like help convey that like everyone has the opportunity to be in this industry. Don't be afraid, just step in. Like if I could do it, anybody could do it. And I hope you guys take that away from this. So that was my intro. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, so first and foremost, a crypto payment is a P2P value transfer, and I kind of wrote up here from Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin white paper what his vision of it was. It's a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that will allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without any financial institution. So basically, I could send you money from point A to point B. There's no middleman involved, and that is something unheard of, right? There's always going to be someone in the middle, whether it be a bank or some kind of financial institution. This helps you get from point A to point B without that friction. And if we look at this figure right here, this shows how much Bitcoin has been transferred like on the network over time. And this is like a staggering statistic. In 2022 alone, it accounts for all the years summed up into one. So if we keep that trajectory going, we're definitely gonna, have this adoption curve keep going up and up and up. So what are some of the problems with like traditional traditional payments? Payment expense accounts for a large portion of the issues with like credit cards. Another staggering statistic is like 2% of the US GDP. That's like the equivalent of the amount of payment expense in the US. So that's crazy, right? There's a complete opportunity to capture that and somehow try to solve for it. And because of that, credit cards charge up to 3.5% to the merchants, which is not great. Consumers reported losing 5.8 billion in fraud in the last year, which is another not great thing. Chargebacks. So credit cards will always fight for the consumers. I mean, maybe some of you have done chargebacks. You go to the store, you don't like a product, or maybe you don't like the service. You call your credit card company. You're like, hey, I don't enjoy this service. I want my money back. The credit card company will be on your side, and the merchant is going to get the bad end of the stick. So that's another issue with traditional payments. Another issue is sometimes credit cards take a long time to settle. So you make a payment, you get authorized. It could take 3 to 5 days for it to reflect on your account. Also, the merchants, they feel the same thing where it takes a long time to get the money. Remittances. So remittances it's a very common thing around the world, especially like with people who migrate to the U.S. They make money. They want to send money to their loved ones in the other countries. So naturally, you want to find the easiest path possible to send money. And usually, to do something like that, you will send like a wire transfer or like a money order, and it'll cost you 6% of your transaction, which is pretty high amount, right? Like you don't need to get your money taken away from you. In 2022, it's expected that $630 billion worth of remittances are going to be sent for low and middle income countries. So like you could think of like countries in Asia or South America. So it's a staggering number. It's a big industry. And these transfers could take, 3 to 5 days, sometimes even a week. And that's not feasible. Like if your family's in a jam, you want to send them the money immediately. And there is no way, like why should you wait a whole week for them to get their money? Like if you have a problem, you want to get it solved now. So that's probably in my opinion, one of the major issues with remittances. So now that we know the problems, how can crypto solve all of this, right? So first and foremost, the speed. The speed of crypto is amazing. Like you could send a Bitcoin payment, I could send you one, it could take 5 minutes to an hour to settle. I could send you an Ethereum payment, it could take 5 seconds to 5 minutes to settle. Or maybe we could send a payment on Polygon, it could take seconds to settle. It really depends which chain you're using. But I mean, it's so much faster than the traditional payments, right? Like where you're waiting for days or a week. There's obviously decreased cost when you're transacting with crypto. There's fewer parties in the middle. You're not dealing with the banks. It's like me sending you money, person to person. So it eliminates all the fees that those middle parties charge you. Typically, I think they might have touched on it in the last presentation. You will pay the fees to transfer your assets, but that's really negligible, especially like with something like Zcash or ZEC. It's going to be like cents. So it's not that big of a deal. Another big thing is crypto payments are purely digital. So if you look at the statistics around the world, some of the countries are moving to like pure digital payments. You could pay with your mobile, like in India and China, it's like all mobile based. In the US, we're a little bit behind on that, but we're slowly catching up. But with those digital payments being accessible throughout the world, this will naturally flow into it, and it'll be like more easy for people to use. And of course, cross-border payments, anybody can send anybody payments anywhere in the world, and that's unheard of, right? Like, and you get it instantly. So that's a big plus, which would make global commerce easier. And another thing is with the payment fees, there's going to be no chargebacks, there's going to be no fraud, or there could be fraud if you do things the wrong way. But there's also no issuance fees. So that also greatly decreases the cost of the payment. And like I said earlier, like it's accessible, it's available to everyone, and anyone could use it. And of course, it's secure and private. So like protocols like ZEC, Zcash, they make your transaction private. So this chart right here, I kind of wanted to show a little bit more about like digital payments. So like you could see in different countries in the world how they have been evolving with their digital payments. India has transacted 25.5 billion worth of value, billions of dollars worth of value. China 15.7, South Korea 6 billion. So you could see like those countries, they're moving to real-time payments, making digital payments. So like I said, the US is working towards that, but with crypto payments, hopefully we could increase those numbers, and the adoption of crypto payments comes a little bit smoother because the whole world is using it and they're more accustomed to these kind of payments. So another issue that we have in the world is people being unbanked. So that's people who don't have access to like financial services such as checking, savings account. They're not able to send money to people. Often this happens in less developed countries, and these are like the top 10 countries with their percentage of populations that are unbanked. Morocco at 71%, Vietnam at 69%. I was surprised that Mexico was up here. They're at 63% of their population is unbanked. And the list goes on, like a lot of people don't have access to these financial tools. And so that's where naturally crypto lets you be your own bank. You control your own assets. You don't have to have access to a financial institution. You could send assets to anybody. You could receive assets from anyone. If you want to take it a step further and explore DeFi, you could earn interest like through different protocols. You could take out loans. You could spend your assets. Like you control your assets. And that power is just unheard of. Like you don't have to depend on a bank or a government. Nobody's going to take over your assets or shut you down. You have control of your assets. So like you are your own bank. So the last presentation on wallets was really great, and that's a subject that I have near and dear to my heart. Like I love wallets. That's like a critical component of crypto. So I'm gonna probably summarize what the last presentation was about. But so there's different types of wallets, right? The first and the most important one is a non-custodial wallet, which is a self-custody wallet. The wallets that you control your own assets. That kind of wallet is like that's what allows you to be your own bank. That's where you have complete responsibility of these assets. So if you make a mistake, that's kind of where you got to be really careful with what you're doing with these wallets. Make sure you're sending it to like the right address, or make sure you're not exposing your private keys in the wrong places. The other kind of wallet is the inverse of a non-custodial is a custodial wallet, which is typically the kind of wallets that exchanges take control of. They control your private keys. So like there's a saying, it's not your keys, not your crypto. That's very true. It could be possible where the exchange goes out of business or some kind of issues happen. Then your funds are stuck in digital prison, I would call it. Something happened recently too with this company called Celsius, where they had complete control of everyone's assets and they weren't able to give it back. I recommend you guys read that story. It had a pretty big impact on our market a few months ago. There's hot wallets, right? So these are wallets that, so they're like a subgenre of these custodial, non-custodial. Hot wallets they could be non-custodial, but they're like generally wallets that are always connected to the internet. So that could be like an app on your phone, like Edge Wallet, MetaMask, and whatnot. The component here that's a little bit risky is your private key is stored like in the storage of the phone. So if somehow your phone gets hacked, or I don't know what happens, someone could get control of your private keys that way. So I mean, it is cool that you have control of your assets, but then you're exposed, right? So you could add an extra layer of security with the cold wallet. So when I say wallet, my thought of a wallet is I have these assets like on a wallet, but it's not really that. The wallet or the software itself is kind of like the front end, and the front end is connected to the back end, right? And that's what communicates with your ledger balance and whatnot. So what the cold wallet does is it connects with the front end of these wallets, and it's like an extra layer of security where you cannot sign a transaction without signing it on this little piece of hardware. So I totally recommend, if you guys get into this stuff, get yourself a hardware wallet that, it's going to completely keep you guys safe. You're going to sign your transactions the right way, and you have a minimal risk of getting hacked. In wallets, you want to look for certain features. Like for myself, I interact with several chains. So I like a wallet such as Trust. Trust Wallet, Edge Wallet, they have access to multiple chains, multiple assets. What I also like to look for is like a wallet that has like an in-app browser. So that way you can interact with DeFi, decentralized applications. I encourage you guys to look into that, because that's like a whole nother world of the ecosystem that's just amazing. So in some wallets also, they have built-in DeFi into them. So those are like the key features that I like in wallets. I wanted to point out MetaMask is probably like one of the best wallets on both mobile and desktop. It's one of the widely used ones in the industry. They have all the features that I like. You can access multiple chains. You can access an in-app browser. You have access to all of DeFi. And lastly, I want to point out, of course, the Flexa wallet Spedin. That's one of the only wallets that allows you to spend crypto at large stores, which is unheard of. You could sometimes spend your cryptos, but not in a crypto way. Like you could preload your debit card with crypto and spend that, but that's not on-chain at all. That's going through like a bank. So we are doing on-chain payments and at stores that you've heard about, which is completely unheard of in the industry. And we're hoping that that's paving the way for more projects. So let's talk about, I've mentioned the word on-chain payments, so let's talk about that a little bit more versus other solutions. So on-chain payments are transactions that occur on the blockchain. They're reflected on the public ledger, they're immutable, they're stored forever on the blockchain. So it's like a big giant database, and you could see everything happening, and it's completely transparent. So the challenges of on-chain payments, like integrating these into like large retailers, first and foremost, it's gonna be like the scale of it. In order to integrate or get into the large retailers, you have to provide hardware. If you think of a store or if you think of a retailer that has 10,000 stores, think about how many point of sales they have, how many pieces of hardware you integrate. Multiply that 10,000 by the number of POSs, by the number, how much the hardware costs. That's like an unfathomable number. Same thing with training. You have 10,000 stores, 10 employees each per store. You got to train them for 4 hours. Multiply that by whatever the wage is. That's another like huge cost. So that's really like the challenge right now with stores, like trying to get it at scale, trying to get it at a low cost, but it's really not feasible. For sure, the biggest thing in the United States is compliance. It's so hard to make these transactions like, I guess, real in the U.S. You have to consider like money transmitter licenses. So certain companies, they are working towards making the compliance side of things a little bit easier, but it's like a constant battle, especially like with all the different government entities, like they are trying to protect the consumers. So it's hard to really push the crypto payments at a large scale. But if you have a small business, you could easily use your phone. You could do like a phone-to-phone payment, or like you have an iPad. So similar to like how, if I were to send you a payment like on your phone, we could do that at a small store. But then you would be responsible for trying to cash out that crypto, and it's just like a cumbersome process, and it's not ideal for a merchant. Like you would want a solution where the merchant receives the money, and then if you want to keep the crypto, sure, you keep it in a wallet. But if you want the cash, somebody should facilitate that for you. You don't have to like worry about any of that stuff. So like there is alternative solutions. You can use prepaid debit cards. I've seen a few of them, or a lot of them come out recently. I think Crypto.com does it. Strike from the Lightning Network, they do that. But as mentioned, that's not true on-chain payments. That's still using the credit card companies, and that's what we're trying to get away from, right? There's also the Lightning Network. They allow instant Bitcoin payments. And of course, there's also Flexa, where we have this flex code technology where you present a QR code to the merchants and you simply just show that to the merchant and pay, and that's on-chain. So it's going away from the ethos of being a credit card payment. And I wanted to show you guys a little demo of one of our one of our crypto payments at Chipotle using our flex code technology. I hope that plays. So when we first rolled out with Chipotle, a community member recorded this video of they're making a burrito bowl. But so this is the app. You present the QR code. You simply scan it, and then you get your receipt and you walk out. And then what's happening is the app, you're getting the amount of crypto that you spent debited from your account. The merchant is getting paid immediately, and I mean it's just a quick process, right? So in order for crypto payments to really do well, we need to improve the user experience, and that's something that's really hard. This industry is extremely nascent. We have to worry about compliance, adoption, and it's just really hard. So many factors are involved. Really, in order for this to succeed, we need to create a seamless experience for both you guys, the consumers, and the merchants. So for consumer, it should be the least amount of clicks possible, where you just do something and get out, similar to like using a debit card or similar to Apple Pay, but something like that doesn't exist. But we're working towards that, right? For the merchants, it has to be something where it integrates directly to the point of sale system. You don't have to add new hardware. You don't have to train people with something that's fairly easy to do, that costs low. We need to make these payments available from any wallet, not just restricted to the Spedin app, or not just restricted to a prepaid debit card. We need to get the merchants to accept it universally, and essentially, like, we need to be able to pay with any asset. And that's going to be hard, right? Like, especially like trying to facilitate that with exchanges and whatnot. But those are the key things to make crypto payments a little bit more accessible to everyone at all the stores. And so I think that's for crypto payments to really succeed, they need to be any asset needs to be spendable on any app, any store, in any context. So like any asset, it could be a crypto asset, it could be loyalty points, it could be your cash to cash type thing. Like, we should be able to accept any asset from any app, like any mobile wallet, any bank app, or whatever kind of app. Like, we should have access to that on any app or any store, whether it be a small mom and pop shop, whether it be a big retailer like Chipotle. And of course, any context, right? You want to be able to spend at stores, online, in app, whatever it may be, or send like donation links, whatever it is. That's where crypto payments needs to go. Ooh, okay. go. So, you guys have any questions? No? Okay. Go ahead.
Can you walk us through the steps? If we got, let's say, $100
Mm-hmm.
in our Zcash,
Mm-hmm.
and then we want to buy a burrito for $10,
Yeah.
and we go through this spend, what do you call it, the Flexa spending. What are the intermediate steps? Do we transfer the price of the burrito exactly in dollars or in crypto money, the units
Yeah.
to the
That
spend?
that is a great question, and so that has a lot to do with the user experience as well, because I could see having to input the amount that you're going to spend, that is not feasible at all. Like, you want it to be instant, right? So with the Spending app, you would just present so you would pick your asset that you want to spend, right? So you're going to pick the Zcash asset, then you pick the merchant you want to spend at. A QR code will generate, and that QR code is going to say like, hey, I have this much amount in my wallet. Go ahead and spend whatever you need at the merchant. So you don't have to input any how much you want to spend. It's just going to happen like immediately.
So it's up to the Flexa to find out how much you have.
Yeah, yeah. So with Flexa, so the point of sale, so like at the store, the point of sale, that's going to have like payment instructions like, hey, they owe us $10, and so when they scan the barcode, it's going to say like, hey, we need $10 from this account debited immediately. So I would say it's equivalent to almost to like when you pay with your credit card and you tap, you don't have to like input anything, you're just tapping. It's kind of the same thing. Like, you don't have to necessarily put in how much, what are the units or anything to that extent.
You're tapping your Flexa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So like, let's see if I could pull one up right now. So like, you would generate a QR code like that, and then you would just literally just scan it at the point of sale, and that's it.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I think she had a question? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. So that is like so there's two major ones right now. One is called the Ledger, one is called the Trezor. They're like the size like of a USB, and essentially what you do is you hook it up with like a USB to your computer. When you're signing a transaction, typically when you sign a transaction without a cold wallet, you could just like say like, hey, I want to send this, send, and it sends. When you have the cold wallet connected, you cannot send a transaction unless like on the device, like it tells you like, do you want this transaction to be sent out? Because your private key lives in the cold wallet. So it kind of eliminates the risk of a hack like on your actual like app itself, because you're not storing your private key there anymore. So now you're adding that extra layer of security, like, hey, I need to sign it outside of this. And the Ledger and the Trezor, those are like the two main ones that you could look into. Yeah. Any other questions? No. All right. Well, thank you guys.